And then when we're ready, let's come to lying down, nice and simple to begin with. We can tune in with the breath. And I'm also going to bring you all onto mute, but you're welcome to unmute if you have questions and things. And when we're ready, so we're lying down, we're going to bring, I'll be a little directive to right and left hand, but if you want to opposite hand at any point, you can. So starting off with the weight in the right hand, arm extended, grounding down into the back, maybe knees bent, or if you want, excuse me, if you want, you can extend the legs. But we're just looking to root down and to feel this line of power. If you've got a kettlebell, then your open hand supporting the bell so that you can feel that, that balance through the open hand. If you want to hold by the handle, you can, but the open hand here allows us to begin to work a little bit of rotation. We can rotate in. And when you do, see if you can take a few breaths with the inward rotation, and then also rotating outwards, and maybe taking a breath or two with that rotation there, looking for those lines of force, just feeling into that arm, that extension, and then finding our way back through center. From here, we're just going to go straight into the other hand. We feel that line of force through the first arm, and we go into the second hand, and same, nice and long through the arm, shoulders grounded, weight is pushed up, balanced on top of the hand, and we're just grounding into them, breathing into them. If you can, open palm, but supporting, finding that line of simplicity, that line of support. And then maybe we find that inward rotation. If you want to, you can inward and outward rotate more quickly than what I do. I like to sort of feel those lines and find that power, that support on the inside, and then that power and support on the outside. So you're sort of exploring a little bit of consistency, a little bit of longevity in the extreme of the movement, obviously always keeping it safe. So extreme not being so extreme that it's gonna be any damage. And then we see, can we find back into the first hand, back into the right hand, and bringing the elbow down to the floor, close to the side, so right in close to the belly, grounding the elbow, finding the stack of the arm, so the hand is above the elbow and you're leaning in. Maybe if you want to feel into the micro movements a little bit more, and those micro movements really important, you can close the eyes. But again, we're going to see this time maybe we rotate outwards first as far as we can, and then from there we see, can we rotate inwards as far as possible? And inwards is probably much less than when the arm's extended, because you only got the movement of the bones in the forearm. And then we see, can we push back up to long arm? So we have to let the hand come back above the shoulder a little bit as we push up. If you can, just with one arm. If you need to spot with the second hand, that's okay too. Then we come over to the left hand, second hand, and we see, can we support that weight in? We're trying to bring the elbow down. So on the way down, if the weight's heavy, you might want to spot with the second hand. Otherwise, just finding the power to drop down with the one arm, grounding down. Elbow underneath the wrist, finding the support through the weight, maybe even closing the eyes. And from here, feeling into those little micro movements, maybe rotating outwards as far as you can. And rotating inwards as far as you can. As much as possible, letting the breath be through the nose. So letting the body settle. And then seeing if you can push back up to this long arm, extended place with that left hand. From there, we go back into the right hand. So this time, we're going to see, can we rotate inwards so that the elbow is turned and the eye of the elbow is maybe pointing towards that left knee, the right elbow. And you try to bend that elbow to bring that elbow down to the floor, but as wide away from the hip as you can. So it's almost like you're trying to get the outer arm close to the ear. And you're grounding in there so that we open that elbow nice and wide. And then we see, come from here, we again rotate just inwards, simple inwards and outwards through the hand as much as we can with that hand grounded. If you need to spot with the other hand, you can just help keep things in place. If you want to work a bit stronger, you close the eyes and then you feel even more into those micro movements. Micro movements are your stabilizing mini muscles who gonna make you strong throughout the range of your movement, your range of your motion. Once you had a little play there, we'll find our way back up to extended. And again, we let that right hand have a rest. We put it into the left. And from here we see, can we open? So rotating fingers in as far as they can. So the elbow may be pointing to the opposite knee, or even the same knee if you could go that far, elbow down. So you've got this armpit open as wide as you can, grounding the elbow on the floor, working that vertical through the forearm. And again, rotating outwards with the fingers. See if you can keep the shoulder relaxed while you've got that elbow as wide as you can. And rotating inwards through those fingers. Exploring that range of movement. And then seeing if you can find your way all the way back up, pushing back to long. And we find our way back into that right arm. Here we're going to see, can we push off the right leg behind us, maybe left hand out to the side, left leg long, so we can roll onto the left side and find the power through the spine to lift the right shoulder off the floor nice and tall. Then we ground the right knee in front of us, leaning a bit forward so we don't fall over backwards. You see how tall can you push? Maybe you want to keep the head lifted, maybe you want to rest the head into the left hand, but you're finding that power through the shoulder, a little bit more alive, a bit more active, tiny bit leaning to the front so you can lean into that right knee and finding that rotation inwards and outwards. Maybe nice and slow, maybe you want to go a little faster, that's absolutely fine. And then from here, keeping the knee to the floor as much as you can, finding a neutral through the arm. See if you can let the shoulder, just let the weight come back enough that the shoulder can begin to sink backwards towards the floor. So you're getting a twist through the spine, yeah, pushing that weight tall. The knee will eventually come off the floor as the shoulder comes down to the floor unless you're really bending. And then we just find our way all the way back. And we let that right hand have a little rest again. We put the weight into the left and we find that simple movement on that left arm. So pushing up through the left arm, right leg long, right hand out to the side, left knee bent, you push off that left foot, find your way, left shoulder lifting from the floor, find your way a little bit to the front so that you can lean into the left knee, which bends in front of you now. And finding then from there the twist and turn of that left hand, exploring those movements through the shoulder and seeing how much you can find still your power of up. Trying to keep the elbow extended. Obviously, if you need to bend it for safety at any point, keep that weight balanced and strong. And always this idea of closing the eyes if you want to work a little bit deeper, if it's not challenging for you in itself. And then slowly we roll. Trying to leave the knee on the floor, can you draw the shoulder backwards to the floor so you're getting a twist through the spine, let the head rest into the floor. You're rolling back, feel the twist, the support through the hand before you roll all the way back onto the back. And then we're going to see, can we take the weight into both hands for a moment and just bringing that weight above the head, a little bit above the head. Don't put it on the floor, but bring it close to the floor. As you do, ground the lower back. So you're working those arms, those shoulders, hovering the weight off the floor, not putting the weight down. Seeing if you can relax the shoulders away from the ears, feeling that core work, upper core. Few moments there, a few breaths there, and then finding our way back up to extend it. And here we're going to see if we can find weight into the right hand. And see if we can find now just a little bit circling around that midline of the body. Try not to go so far that you need to bend the elbow, but see if you could find how smooth can you make that movement. If you need to spot with the left hand, particularly as you come inwards, if you go too far, you just back up with the other hand out to the side. You would bend the arm probably if it goes too deep, but you're seeing, or too far out. So you're seeing, can you find that movement through the arm? Ideally, you're keeping the elbow extended and finding that you can be powerful through that extended arm in those circles. And then we do the same on that left hand. So left hand directly above the shoulder and seeing if you can find that power line And then we start circling around that power line. So just like you're not quite on point and you're finding that, exploring that, working through the shoulder, reaching around. Maybe occasionally there's a little bend in the elbow, and that's okay to keep it safe. If you come too far to the inside, particularly, then you might spot with the opposite hand, trying to find smooth circles in one direction. And then seeing if you can circle back the other way. So from here, we're going to go back into that right hand. We're going to see, can we link some of these movements together to build a bit more endurance in the right hand. So first of all, we're going to see, can we, arm is long, rotate in, and then rotate out. And then we come back to neutral. And then we see, can we bring the elbow down close to the side here, and we rotate outwards as far as we can, elbow down, rotate inwards as much as possible. And then we see, can we find neutral again and push that arm up to long. So we're adding all those movements together, elbow out wide, high by the ear as much as you can, reaching down. See if you can rotate outwards and see if you can rotate inwards as much as you can. And then seeing from here, if you can push that arm back up to extended. And then from here, we're going to see, can we roll over onto that left side and see if we can push tool through that right arm till the right knee's on the floor in front. And again, find that inward rotation and that outward rotation as much as possible. And then we're going to find our way all the way back, going down with the shoulder, leaving the knee across, pushing tools, sinking deep into the back. And once we find our way down, we're going to bring that weight into the other hand and do the same again on the other side. So left hand, finding your line of power, letting the right hand have a rest, rotating inwards and rotating outwards. And then finding your way back to neutral. You could do all of this with the eyes closed. You know the movements, you've done the movements already. Elbow down to the floor, rotating outwards and rotating inwards. And then finding your neutral and seeing from here, can you push back up to an extended arm? Then we're rotating inwards and bringing the elbow down as wide as we can. Reaching down, grounding down, rotating outwards. And rotating inwards. And then finding your way back up to that extended arm. And from here, seeing if you can press off the left foot behind to roll onto the right arm, right side of the body. Can you bring the left knee in front and again find this inward rotation and outward rotation. From here, you try to keep that knee on the floor, finding neutral through the shoulder. Hand is working, arm is working. We see, can we roll backwards through the spine, getting that twist through the spine with the knee across the body. And then we find our way all the way back onto the back. Now we bring the weight into both hands and we see, can we bring that weight a little further overhead, trying to ground that lower back, seeing how long you can reach, how close to the floor, maybe arms extended, depends on the weight, depends on your strength, but ground that lower back into the floor. You want to legs extended as well, as long as the lower back's grounded, maybe even feet lifting, legs extending, you choose, shoulders relaxed. And then we're going to find our way all the way back. So we're going to do that one more time. We're going to see if we can work even a bit more, an extra round, so adding 2 rounds together. But first of all, just want to add in one little resting place. So once we've got the elbow down to the side, wide over the head, we're going to see, can we roll over that armpit? Can we roll over that armpit? And then we're going to bring the weight into both hands, holding with both hands, trying to squeeze those elbows as close together as we can. And then from there, you try to press down your chest to the floor, the forehead towards the floor, keeping that weight directly above those arms. Try to bring those shoulders wide and down. So you're trying to open the broad through the shoulders, sinking deep in, breathing in here, breathing out here. So just feel that one time, then we can roll back over. So when we roll over, the arm wants to be so wide that you can find that you're trying to keep that armpit onto the floor as you roll over. It's not that we're over the side and we kind of get stuck and then we have to move the body in. The arm really comes wide there to manage that. So let's see if we can do that. Weight in the first hand. We're going to add that little thing in so we have a little bit of rest as we go. So weight in the right hand when you're ready. Oh, we can see keep rotating inwards and rotating outwards. And here we're just going a little faster so that we can have that longevity. We're doing 2 rounds, elbow down to the floor, weight outwards, rotate inwards. And see if you can push back up to an extended arm. From here, we're rotating wide with the elbow down to the floor. So fingers turn in. We're going to see from here, can we rotate outwards and inwards? And while we're here, we see, can we roll over that right armpit? Can we roll down, belly to the floor, holding the weight with both arms? Have a little rest, sharing the weight between both hands so you're not using so much in the right arm to balance it. Chest down, shoulders broad, forehead down. Think about closing the front of the spine. You're trying to curl the tailbone under and draw the chin towards the floor. And then we see if we can find back into relaxation, back onto that right arm. It's had a little rest, but if you can, still just in the right arm, rolling back onto the back. We push long. As we push long, pushing over onto that left side of the body, right knee forwards, right hand pushing toward. If it gets too strong to do 2 rounds, feel free to swap over to do the second hand when we're doing the second round, still in that first hand. So we're rolling back onto the back, building this endurance in the hand. Hands already working quite strong. Once you're on the back, having twisted the spine, rotate inwards and rotate outwards and see how far you get. Elbow down to the floor, rotate outwards and rotate inwards. Maybe your hand is beginning to cramp a little bit. We come back up to long arm, as tall as possible. Rotate outwards so you can bring the elbow down to the floor, over that right arm, barely towards the floor, resting that weight into both hands, sharing the weight between both hands. Chest down, nice and deep, opening through those arms, through those shoulders. And then rolling back onto the side while we're down. See if you can find that outwards rotation, that inwards rotation. And then we come back up to long arm. And we see, can we find our way across onto the left shoulder to push that right arm tall, rotating inwards, rotating outwards. And then we see if we can twist our spine on the way back down, pushing the weight tall, shoulders trying to sink to the floor. Knee wants to stay across the body towards the floor. And then we find our way back onto the back. And here we swap the hands. So try and do 2 rounds on the other side. And we're going to see how much we can support in that left hand. So if you just did that lots of times, swapping sides, you just swap sides again. So you might be in the right hand now. We're twisting, turning, if we can, 2 whole rounds in that left hand. And then back through center, back through neutral, elbow down. Rotating one way, rotating the other way. So building that endurance, building that strength, and then back up. You can do the whole thing with your eyes closed if you wish. Opening the elbow wide as we come down. Let's find that rotation before we roll over the arms. So rotate outwards, rotate inwards. Then we're seeing, can we roll over that left armpit to support, to hold that weight with both hands. Squeezing those elbows in as close together as you can. Hollowing the spine, forehead, shoulders pressing down, broad through those shoulders, like trying to bring them wide away from each other. Curling, drawing that belly into the back body, curling the tailbone down, pressing into the floor. And then we'll find our way back onto that left side. We see, can we push that left arm tall? If we can, as we push the left arm tall, we roll over onto the right side, try to get the left knee in front, find that rotation in, and that rotation out. Pushing tall, and then seeing, can we sink that left shoulder back towards the floor, right knee staying grounded as long as it can, second round. Swap over if it's too strong in the left arm, otherwise rotate outwards. Rotate inwards, build that stamina, work through a little bit that tough work in the hand, draw the elbow down to the floor close to the body, rotate outwards. Rotate inwards. How much can you build that strength in the arm? Back up to extend it. You draw that elbow out wide, down towards the floor. And roll over the arm to share the weight between both hands. Chest down, opening the shoulders, pressing in, reaching, working through the upper body. And then slowly from here, we find our way back onto that back of the body with that left elbow wide. See if you've still got energy for external and internal rotation. And then see if you can, last one, pushing up nice and tall, rolling over to the second side, finding the power in the arm and the shoulder, twisting one way, twisting the other way. And then seeing, can you let the shoulder come back to the floor, leading the knee across the body as far as long as you can, until you find your way all the way back and down. Weight is in both arms. And take the weight out of the left arm to let it have a rest. See if you can come onto the right foot. So we put that weight, hook the weight over the right foot, and see, can we find that right leg extended, the right leg rounded? So we're looking for that extension over the leg. Giving the arms a rest. See if you can here point the toes and flex the foot. Lengthening through that heel up to the sky, trying to work the thigh muscles, trying to ground the back. That bottom leg could be bent if you want a slightly softer place. It could be extended if you want to work that splits a little more, or even bending the knee, toes pulling under to work even deeper. And then from here, we're just going to see a little bit forwards and backwards, seeing if we can bring that towards the head. And then away from the head. How far away can you go? As you go away, try to keep the leg extended, so you're really having to work these thigh muscles, and you have to engage those to push that weight away. Maybe a couple more times overhead. Try not to bend the knee here either, and extending heel away, as far away from the head as you can. How low down could you go without putting the weight down, without dropping it? And then we come all the way back up. Let's see if we can find in the leg as well, this rotating inwards and this rotating outwards. You could do that with toes flexed, leg extended, or toes pointed, leg extended. Maybe one more time if you wanted to as well. Work with the eyes closed. Working, loosening, opening, finding the power through those lines. And then slowly we find our way into the second leg to waken up this left leg. So hooking the weight over the left leg, starting off with a simple point and flex. Feeling the lines of the back of the leg, seeing the engagement of the front of the leg. Maybe the bottom right leg wants to be extended away. How much can you work through the foot? Once we've done that a few times, seeing if we can work a little deeper into those extensions, bringing that foot overhead, bringing that foot away from the head. How far away could you go? So you really have to engage those thigh muscles to push that leg away. And you can use that engagement maybe to bring that leg further overhead. Seeing how much you can work with the power in the leg. You can keep the movements as small as they need to be if it's difficult in the body. Make the movements a bit bigger if you find that you've got the power. Reaching one way, other way. And then again, trying to find that way to neutral to 90. You will rotate one side inwards, rotate outwards. You might want to do this with toes pointed or with toes flexed. The heel extending. And then we're going to see if we can find that weight back into the right leg. And as we find the weight back into the right leg, we're going to try to allow the left knee to bend, left knee to roll out to the side, and see if you can then roll onto that left side. So you have to let the right leg come inwards a little bit. So you roll to the outside of the left leg and see if you can lift that right hip off the floor and find your way up into this sideways extended position. You're pushing that right leg up. Right hip is balanced on top of the left. Compression on the outside of the left, and if you go too far forwards, if you don't get up enough, you'll roll back onto your back. So you want to be on the side of the body as tall as you can. And then again, here we start a little bit, if we can get the balance on the side to reach that leg overhead, and then maybe back to neutral. And if it's difficult, if it's pulling you all over the place, just keep the movement small. Once you feel you've got a bit of the control with it, you can see how much you can work into the flexibility of the leg. You can back up with the arm if you need. Bringing that foot overhead with that right buttock lifted off the floor, so you're on the left outside edge of the left hip. And then back. And then see from here if you could bring those shoulders down towards the floor, leaving that leg where it is, still lifted. So again, you're working that twist through the spine, but with a different force through the body. Now the push is up into that right side foot rather than up into the right side hand. Let me see, can we roll the hips all the way back onto the back as well? As we come onto the back, see if you can just circle that right leg around that center point, building a bit of control outside of that straight up and down. Big as you can with those circles, keeping the right leg straight, smooth as you can with those circles before big. So if it's lumpy, if your movement's all bumping around and there's places that you don't have the power and the control, make the circles smaller. Big is not the first thing. That was a bad instruction. See if you can circle back the other way. As you get more control, you can make those circles bigger. As you keep it smooth, you can make those circles bigger. Had comments occasionally that some people lose control with their foot in the handle. If the handle's too big for your foot, you could try this with a shoe on so that you make your foot a little bit bigger. And once we've had a play with that, we're going to do the same on the other side. So we swap over the legs. And so we've got the weight in the left leg. We let the sole of the right foot come down to the floor. Let the right knee drop out to the right side. And then the knee may or may not come down to the floor initially. Then we bring that left leg across to the right side a little bit. It allows the right knee to push down to the floor. We're trying to roll over onto the right side of the body. So you've got to be brave to put that weight a little bit to that right side. And then once we're down, then we're trying to push the weight tall, trying to open that left hip as wide as we can, finding the vertical through that left leg while we're on the right side and pushing tall as much as you can. How does that work the leg? From here, we might begin to bring that leg overhead and then back to neutral. You could go further away if you really wanted, but that sort of depends on how heavy your weight is. If you're finding it hard to control here, just keep the movement small. You want to be enough on that right side. If you come back too far, you might roll back onto your back. You want to keep that left buttock pushing up through the left foot all the while. And maybe you work into these deep hamstring stretches while you're on the side. If that's comfortable, it's manageable. You can stay in a little longer to work that leg, to carry the weight, breathing as you go. From here, we're going to see, can we roll gently back onto the back with the shoulders, trying to leave that left bottom off the floor. So you see, can you find your twists there through the spine, pushing that left leg tall, getting that left shoulder grounded. And then from here, we let that weight come back to the left side until the left buttock's grounded again with control. And circling that foot around, so we're building strength around that center line of that extended left leg. Circling in one direction, looking for smooth. And as you build smooth into your circles, then you can begin to build big into the circles, and you could get bigger over time. And how big you go depends on how strong, how flexible, and how heavy the weight is. So 3 different elements, and make sure that you're also all the time reaching to a place where you're sort of softening the body. So it's a soft strength that you're looking for. Something where even if the body's working hard, even if maybe some part of the body begins to cramp, you're seeing if you can build through that, working through that a little bit. Let's change the direction of the circles. Back around the other way. One day you have a sort of a sustainability, a longevity, that the muscles can just work like that. And that even carrying this weight, you're not straining the body, you're sort of strong and just extending, just beginning to explore the movement and understanding that you can carry weight in the exploration of the movement, and that you could be strong throughout that movement. And as we build length into the strength, as we build strength into the edges of the movement, we actually increase so much more power through the movement. how it is this force times distance. Let's see if we can find our way back into the hands for a moment. So we let the legs have a rest. So we're going to bring those hands, maybe we keep the arms extended this time, and see how far overhead you can bring those hands. So it might be that you can't come so far. It might be that you need a bit more space behind. We see how far can we go, how far can we go. Now, if you can get the weight close to the floor, still don't try to arch the body, try to press that lower back into the floor at the same time. So you're trying to ground that lower back, bring that weight as far overhead as you can, arms extended, working, seeing if you can relax those shoulders away from the ears. So you're finding all of that power, trying to extend those arms. If there's a little bend, that's fine. If you want to work those legs off the floor, that's fine too, but work that lower back into the floor. So you're working that upper core. And then when you're ready to find your way all the way back up, arms extended. And here we're going to see with those arms extended, if we can begin to draw the body up to sitting. So take it a little slow to begin with. First place is with arms extended, how far forward can you reach? And depending on the weight you're using, now this is a double arm thing, maybe you can work a slightly heavier weight, might help. We see, can we reach the weight as far forward as we can to over the hips? And then we see, can we roll up through the spine, keeping the weight where it is to bring the chest in and reach up through the heart, through the chest. And then from here, we try to go back down, keeping that weight where it is, curling down through the spine. See if you can leave the weight where it is in time and space. The arms extend as you come down. Once you're back on the floor, shoulders come back overhead. And then from there, maybe we extend those arms overhead a little further. So we engage that core with the back grounded, reaching over his head as far as you can, not putting the weight down. You can bend the arms here if you wish. And then slowly from here, we come back up and we see, can we go again? Arms extended to come forwards. You try to lift those shoulders off the floor. Then you see, can you draw the body forwards towards the weight till we come up? Open the heart, the chest here. How tall can you lift? Like you're almost going to rest that on your chest. And then one more time, just from here, rolling back down, try to leave the weight where it was in space. And then as you come back, hands overhead, again, reaching long, grounding that lower back. So you're working in, building that core strength, building that longevity. Again, we come overhead, we come above the shoulders, we're going to come forwards. This time as we come forwards, we find our way all the way in, and then we're going to see, can we push that weight tall? Can you find your extension? Reaching long, opening. How much can you straighten those elbows? Try not to be up here with bent arms, but really try to find, can I straighten my elbows? Squeeze those arms in, find that extension, push tall, and then try to arch the back. See if you can find you're sticking your tailbone out as much as you can to try and send the chest up and forward to push those arms up and tall. If you can, you'd send the chest even further forwards and almost hang the weight behind you as you reach long. Stretching through those shoulders, opening through the spine, extending through those elbows. And then we find our way back in to this place above the shoulders. And we're going to see, can we roll back down through the spine as deep as we can. And then we're going to let the upper body have a little rest for a moment. And we bring the weight back onto the right foot and see if we can find from here. We're going to try to draw the right knee into the chest. So right knee into the chest. See if you can keep that shin vertical. Draw that knee in. Let that weight be stretching. We want to try to lengthen the right side of the spine. So the belly part. So that right hip lengthening down towards the left foot. We might come a little wider, trying to get that knee down towards the floor. I like to pull that leg in to really get as close to my belly as I can. Shin is as vertical as possible. Pulling that foot down. And with that free left leg, try to extend the back of the knee down to the floor. Extend the leg long. If that's too far to go down to the floor, can you straighten that leg? How deep down can you get that left leg towards the floor? If you want to go even deeper from here, working that weight, see if you can keep that leg in. Maybe you want to try to extend that right leg long overhead. So you're just working, stretching into those hamstrings as if they weren't already stretching enough, and then just bending back to that ankle over the knee. So when we extend, it goes a little bit overhead. If you want to support that leg with the hands so that you get used to holding the weight in that place, you can. It's a little bit wide to the side, working that split, extending as long as you can, and then coming back into the bend. And we work that a couple more times. Extend. How much can you extend that knee? And how much can you bend the knee, keeping that knee in close to the chest or close to the armpit? One more time, if you can, without the hands, if you've got that power in the leg to work that strong, extend that long, point those toes, and then coming back all the way in. Then from here, pushing that leg back up to 90 degrees and seeing how does 90 degrees feel. We do the same on the other side, so swap over those legs. Now, if the leg doesn't go all the way straight when you're trying to straighten it, that's absolutely fine. Working the edges of the movement. So we come in, again, knee towards the chest. Maybe that free leg is bent to begin with, but try it if you can as we go a bit deeper. See if you can extend the leg, even if it comes off the floor. Get that leg learning how to be fully strong and straight. Let's try and bring the knee into the chest, and we're pulling down with the hands, getting a good contact with the belly. As we come knee wide, try to lengthen this left belly. So you try to draw that knee down. Maybe you pull in with the hands, maybe you're just supporting, maybe you're making it not too strong with the hands. You can be supporting that leg or stopping that leg, dropping out too wide to the side. See if you can breathe in, extending that right leg nice and long, steady with the breath. Now, if you want to go deeper, maybe you're supporting here, maybe you just see how far. It might not go all the way along, but you try to straighten the leg, you feel all of that extra through the back of the leg. If you can, you take that all the way as far as you can, extending the leg, and then bending the knee as much support as you need with those arms. As you get used to carrying that weight off that vertical line of the shin into that stretch tension and strength of the hamstrings, see if you can find, maybe one day you could work that bending and extending without the arm. Maybe you don't get all the way straight, but how much can you engage these thigh muscles? How deep can you get that leg in as you go long? As you go long, maybe you stay there in the stretch or work that bend and extend a couple more times. And then once you've played with that extension in the leg, again, we find our way back into those hands to let the legs have, for a moment, a little bit of a rest. Have the legs a little bit wide, arms above the shoulders, strong extended arms if you can. Obviously, if you need at any point to take a rest. But here we're going to see, can we find forwards with the hands? Can you reach the body forwards and up until you bring that weight up towards the heart, towards the chest? We're going to find as much as we can again, arms extending overhead. And then from here, we're just going to try to squeeze the elbows in towards each other and see if we can bend those elbows to hang the weight down the back of the body. So we're trying to push those elbows up, hang the weight down, trying to open into the front spine, push as tall as you can. And then from here, trying to keep all of that steady and extending that weight back up long. So you're working strength into those tricep muscles. We do that 3 times in total. Maybe it's nice. I quite like to, with the kettlebell, have the thumbs pointing through there so I can hold as I bring that weight down the back. It's like almost the hand is going to go to the back of the body, but it feels like a good solid grip for me with the kettlebell. And then finding that extension again back up, trying to keep everything nice and long. One more time, lowering down as far as you can. And then back up nice and long. Now, from here, we're just going to have a little play with. Eventually, we're trying to put the weight down onto the back of the body. If you've got a kettlebell, then it might be that that's too strong. You might want to bring the kettlebell around the side over the shoulder so you can lower the kettlebell deeper down onto the back of the body. So you might roll it like this. If you can, it's just an extension of that same place from up. So here, that you're lowering that down onto the back, and then you're seeing, can we fold the body forwards a little? So can we rest that weight on the back of the shoulders and see if it's possible, maybe you can come forwards enough, you can balance the weight. You have to balance the weight. You're seeing, can you find your way into this forward fold, trying to let the body fold in towards the legs, supporting that weight on the back of the shoulders. So maybe a little bit on the neck, maybe the head's lifting up a little bit to help balance, trying to have a little hollow between those shoulder blades, as deep down as you can. If you want to keep one hand supporting the weight, one hand stays up to support the weight, that's absolutely fine. Eventually, even both hands, and trying to extend those elbows forwards to extend the front of the spine, to find that lift and that open through the heart, through the chest, through the shoulders. Or if you can get those hands to the floor and balance the weight, it can be nice just to allow the body to surrender down, to surrender deep. fold in. Find that sense of release. A deeper breath. Let the weight push you down. See how much you can receive the weight pushing you down. And then slowly from here we find our way all the way back up. Now if you need to bring that weight around the side of the neck, you can. Otherwise we're going to try to bring that weight up to long, to extend those arms a little bit more, to draw the weight back into the chest and see if we can lower the body back down. So we try to keep that hands where they are above the hips. We try to move the body away, seeing how long we can keep that weight there. We roll down and then we bring the weight overhead as far as we can. So extending those arms or bending those arms, bring the weight close to the floor, keeping the lower back down. And then slowly from here, finding that way all the way back up. We're going to see if we can find our way back to sitting, so forwards and all the way up. And this time as we come up again, we're going to go overhead, but this time we're working Janushasana, so we just let that left leg come in, and then we push the weight tall. And with that Janushasana, seeing if you can bring the weight over the backs, if possible, to squeeze those elbows in, and then from here to fold the body forwards. If you need to support the weight with the hand, do. And see, so we're keeping a bit of awareness on that weight behind us and seeing maybe one day we can bring those hands forwards, seeing how much we can balance and fold. And eventually how much can we receive the weight as we fold in. Receive that weight to fold forwards. A little bit of awareness to balance the weight. There's a lot of breath. Long exhales to surrender into that right leg. Noticing what's opening in the back of the body. What needs to create space in the front of the body. So supporting the weight to come back up. And while we're up, we'll extend those arms if we can, or find a way to swap over the legs. Right knee out to the side. Weight behind us. One more time, seeing if we can find our way forward. How does that compare? Carrying the weight, if possible, on the back of the body. How is that in the back on the right side? How much can you find that surrender? That depth in, enough awareness to keep the weight balanced. One day we'll fold forwards enough we can release and balance the weight. See if we can find almost a little arch in the back, little hole between those shoulder blades and the back of the neck to balance that weight on. What can you surrender? What can you release? And slowly we find our way all the way back up. And again, as we come back up, we're going to see if we can roll down the spine. So as we roll down the spine, I'm in a small space, so I'm just giving a bit more space behind because we want to have a bit more space maybe behind. So we roll down the spine, seeing if we can keep that weight above the hips as we go. And then we see bringing the weight overhead. Now you might want to do this with arms extended or with arms bent, but what we're going to try to do is see, can we bring that weight to the floor? Now, if you want to work a challenge, have your arms extended. But the main challenge here is to see, can you roll up in slow motion? So can you lift your legs up towards the sky? And then can you begin to roll? Now, either, if plow is a difficult position for you, just pull on the weight to bring those feet overhead, all the way down to the floor in slow motion. So you can roll up and down in slow motion, try and avoid swinging the legs. Try to find that you're pulling on that weight with control, and movement from the outside is just that you curled up your bottom and pushed the feet to the floor. And if that's comfortable for you and you want to have a bit more of a challenge, try instead, let the feet come above the hips or as little overhead as possible as you pull on the weight to try and take the feet up towards the sky. So you find an open shoulder stand and the feet never really come very much in front of those hips. And then you find your way rolling back down through the spine. So either one is fine. You can work somewhere in between if that one is too challenging to keep those legs straight up to the sky above the hips and just rolling up through the spine. Or you can find that way to pull those feet overhead as deep as you can into the plow, and maybe you take those legs a little bit wide in the plow so you can fold in as deep as you can to stretch through the spine. So feet over the head will stretch through the spine as you get to the depth of the pose, and feet above the bottom and lifting the bottom up will work the core even more. So if it's not enough core work on the way up, you can see if you can find that place up towards the sky. And then we've got one more. Well, we'll do that one in a moment because we're going to have to find our way back up to sitting when we're ready to. So we find arms long, pushing that weight forwards so that we can follow that weight forwards and up. And if we can link the movement of arms up towards the sky and down towards the back, that's where we'll go. While we're up, we're also going to see, can we find our half lotus? So you might want to do that with one arm. You might want to put the weight down to get the legs, like the Janushirshasana, but here we're coming in a little higher. If it's too strong to have the foot in the hip, do everything with the ankle above the knee. Also, if it's too strong to bring the weight above the head, feel free to instead rest the weight somewhere on that left thigh. So maybe we're encouraging that left thigh down. And if you want to, you could have that weight close to the hip or close to the foot, close to the knee rather. And we're seeing, can we let that hip open? Or you bring that weight above the head and back of the shoulders. And then you see, can you fold the body forwards with that half lotus? So you're going a bit deeper into that knee bend. So if that's painful in the knees, maybe better to work with the weight on the leg to help open that hip. And seeing then, where can you fold in? Where can you find surrender forwards or long through the spine? Breathing as you go. Opening the body. And particularly because the legs are bigger muscles, oftentimes if I'm working with two hands or working with just on the legs, then I prefer to use a slightly bigger weight. So it's like the bigger muscles. Actually, when we're trying to surrender here, as long as I'm safe and I can balance it, a bigger weight on my back is better because it pushes me down deeper. And the muscles in the back, there's a lot of strong muscles in the back that need a lot of releasing, a lot of strong muscles in the legs that need a lot of releasing. The same, and if I'm placing the weight on the inner thigh or somewhere towards the knee, there's a lot of tightness, a lot of strength in this structure, and that extra weight can encourage that down, releasing more. And my job is just to work out how I can let go. How can I let go? How can I let go? We're going to try that on the other leg as well. The left side and right side are very different, so feel free to stay in either the weight above the head or the weight on the inner thigh. Again, foot can be above the knee or it can be right up into the hip, and you choose which variation. Maybe you want to spend a bit of time in both. So if you're putting the weight on the inner thigh, you could go close towards the hip. It's really safe. You could put a really heavy weight right at the top of the hip because there's no leverage. It's the hinge that you're pushing from. So you could have a really strong weight there, or you could see how much you can bear putting it on the knee. And then eventually from here, and if you want to stay in that stuff, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to go above the head, over, and allow the body to fold forwards, that's a little bit more extension through the spine. So that might be too much in a half lotus, or it might be a beautiful place to go in a half lotus. You've got to listen. What does your body say? Breathing. Finding your surrender in whichever variation you go. What can you release? What can you let go of? How can you allow yourself to drop a little deeper? Go inside a little bit more. If you can, you're letting the breath pass in through the nose and out through the nose. And taking a little bit more time with the breath, allowing the parasympathetic nervous system to be triggered. The breath deep into the lungs will access the physiology of the reflex, of the relaxation response in the body. Short breaths will put us into a state of stress. They'll activate the fight and flight. Let's see if we can find our way back up. So we're finding our way back up and back down towards the plow. If the last one was a challenge for you, then you can do exactly the same again. If you want to work a little bit more challenge, then as you bring that weight overhead, like we do at the beginning, is that we can see, can we keep that weight off the floor? Now, maybe you keep the weight close to the head off the floor, and you're carrying that weight here and seeing, can you work that balance and control to lift the body up? As you come up, you bring the legs wide and bring those feet overhead and see how far you can go in balance, carrying the weight. So you have to work that balance. Maybe you want to do that with the weight extended over the head as far as you can. So you've got those arms a bit longer, and you see how much can you work that, using that weight, using the balance to find that control to roll up through the spine. How do you move the legs? Where do you put the spine? How deep can you go? And maybe you want to, with arms extended, see how tall you can keep that weight above the head and see if you can work that again. So it's a little bit less leverage and a little bit more sort of power in the balance. You can bring those legs wide so that weight's pushing tall through those legs. And from there as well, you might wish to see, can you do the same variations coming up towards the shoulder stand with control. So you're learning to roll the spine as much as you can and work the body in the same process. And we're going to have one more rolling of the spine, one more variation rolling of the spine. And this is where we just put the weight into the leg to roll up the spine. So if we go in the right leg first of all, and then you bring the right knee in towards the chest, maybe both knees in towards the chest, and you let the back of the knees open, the knee pit, as it were, opens a little bit more. So they're bringing the weight overhead, and it allows the bottom to pull off the floor. And maybe you could do this with arms all the way overhead, and you come up into the shoulder stand. So I come up into the shoulder stand, bringing the weight backwards, closing the knee pit. So you work that balance. And then maybe you extend those legs up towards the sky overhead, over hips. Whenever you're in control, keep that shin vertical as much as you can. And you can roll up and down the back from there, keeping it in control as you go. Learning to roll the spine to give you that control, give you that connection to the floor, that connection to roll up higher or roll down smoothly. And maybe you could draw the knees into the forehead a little bit more. Maybe you can let those feet pull over towards the floor if you feel there's a sense of control. Mostly working through the spine. Working that on both the right leg and the left leg as far as you get. Noticing, is it different if you have that weight in the left leg? to curl up the spine. Hands overhead if that's difficult. Support the back with the hands as you reach yourself up towards the shoulder stone. If it feels good to come in, knees to the forehead, feel free. If it feels better to come back down through the spine, feel free. And slowly from here, we find our way all the way back in and releasing down. Let's take just a minute to have the weight onto the lower belly, onto the upper belly. So you have in as high up towards the diaphragm as you can. And let the body surrender down. See if you can breathe. Be steady with that. I'm going to take a couple minutes with the breath and the weight, and then we're going to take a minute or so with just the weight. Just the breath without the weight. Close your eyes, find that surrender. If you haven't already, release the weight. Let the breath be with the echo of any weight on the body. Let the body be heavy on the floor. If there's anything else you need to release and let go of. And to find our way out, see if we can roll the head side to side, wriggle the fingers, wriggle the toes. No, you can stay longer if you want to in relaxation. For now, I'm going to draw this class to conclusion. So I want to say thank you very much. If you want to stay in relaxation, stay as long as you like.